So, guys, I call this one "Make Yourself Addicted to Working Out." It could really be "Make Yourself Addicted to Anything," but I named it that. But guys, I'm super pumped to be with you guys, and that you guys have found the time that we spent together valuable so far, and valuable enough for you guys to keep reinvesting into this process and reinvesting into yourself ultimately. So guys, today what I wanted to do was go over a little bit more about this pain pleasure principle that we talked about the other day, because it's such a powerful principle. And the concepts and distinctions I'm going to share with you guys today will really be able to really be able to allow you guys to put this concept into action in like a true, like operating in your life sort of way. But first, let's recap what we covered last week. And so what we learned was, one, that because of a thing called neuroplasticity, we have the ability to transform our habitual behaviors, learn new skills, and make new empowering associations with like exercise, eating right, the whole 9 yards, right? Number two, that our behaviors are essentially just pathways in our brains that are either easy to access, non-existent, or hard to access. So one of the three, right? And then number three, that throughout our entire lives, our brains are changing shape no matter what we do. And we're either progressing or digressing, one of the two. And then finally, and probably the most important, that we can take control of this brain development by consciously starting to direct this process, okay? So now guys, in this workshop, the way I put it together, what I'm gonna ask from you guys is to make a commitment to play full out today and really like be part of the process. So when I ask a question, you guys answer back. Feel free to answer back, please. Shout if you want, but just while I'm pitching, you catch, and I'll you throw some balls back at me too. Okay, so I'm gonna ask. Like I said, everyone plays full out, and we'll have a lot of fun with this process. And I want you guys to really be able to feel the change. And I got an exercise at the end that I really think you guys will be able to feel. But as at the end of last week's workshop, John asked a great question about how we might be able to speed up the process of neuroplasticity. And in today's workshop, we'll cover one technique that will actually help you guys speed this whole process up, and allow you guys to jump the habit formation line. And instead of investing 12 to 18 months into this process, you guys will be able to get it down within a few weeks or even like a few days, to be able to start to control this, okay? But really where it starts is us understanding what pain and pleasure does and how these two things affect our body and our mind, all right? So when we think about pain, what do we normally associate pain with, right? It's typically something physical, like we stubbed our toe, or we were burning our hand, or even like muscle soreness or hunger pains. But guys, I'll ask both of you guys. Rebecca, is that the only kind of pain that we feel?
Heck no. I just got divorced, so let me tell you, there's a whole nother kind of pain.
All right. So yeah, most definitely, right? Like emotional pain can be like even more like physically draining than the physical pain like that we actually feel, right? Um, and and you guys just heard Rebecca describe an emotional event as being painful or even hard to deal with. So we know that mental anguish can be painful. But guys, what's kind of interesting about emotions from a biological perspective, emotions are essentially just three things, right? So these things that we feel so strongly are just electricity, hormones, and chemicals, right? Essentially drugs too. That's the worst part. But when these forces come together in the right sort of way, they produce a number of emotions, right? But what influences the particular emotion that gets fired off is unique to the three substances and the way that they interact with each other. Kind of like baking a cake. You can have all the right ingredients and then still produce like the wrong emotion, right? For example, right? Let's say you go out with your you love going out with your friends, right? It's like one of the fun things, highlights of your week. But you've been under a ton of pressure at work lately and just want to talk to somebody. So you get your friend on the phone and you tell them what's been going on, but your friend just wants to talk about this new place he wants to go to that's awesome, right? And you try to bring up what's been stressing you out, but then your friend interrupts you and invites you out, thinking, hey, that'll probably help them, right? And all of a sudden, even though you generally like going out with your friends, you don't you don't anymore, right? In this moment, you don't. And you're almost mad at your friend for inviting you out. But here's an even better one, right? So something better. You've been hoping for a promotion at your job, right? And your boss calls you in after you've really stepped up, and she starts talking to you about some of the challenges that have been happening in the department, and then tells you how you've really stepped up and you've been helping keep things together and moving smoothly. And then she offers you a promotion to take over the entire department. And you just got offered the position you've been waiting for the past 2 years. And you just accidentally belt out, yes, right? And your boss says, great, come in early on Monday and we'll get the paperwork knocked out and I'll help you get started in your new role. You agree, you walk back to your desk, you're all smiles. And soon, though, those smiles begin to drop. And all of a sudden, you start noticing your peers begin to mock you and your ability to lead them after hearing about your good news. So they're hating, right? Now, all of a sudden, what was once a really pleasurable and exciting time in your life turns into a panic time filled with self-doubt. Although the position and the pay and your desire to get the role hasn't changed at all. The way that you actually feel about the achievement of the position started to shift, though, if you notice. You got worried and filled with self-doubt, started questioning your ability to be able to do it. So what happened in these situations? Like, what caused you to all of a sudden see something different? In both circumstances, you got what you wanted ultimately, but ended up getting upset and feeling frustrated and maybe even a little insecure. Well, three things happen, and three really big things happen. First, your expectations of what should have happened based on that event were violated, right? So instead of your friends being happy for you, they were actually talking shit, right? And then your biochemistry went from feel-good hormones, right, kicking ass, and then all of a sudden to these stress hormones, right? And we'll elaborate more on that here in a second. And then your triad shifted, right? Or what I call your focus feel factor started to shift. And again, we're going to cover this more as we continue through this program, but let's just focus on the last two portions of this so we can stay really concise in this whole thing, okay? So first, let's talk about the biochemical response that happens as a result of these events, right? So in our first story, you called a friend with the expectation that you'd be able to empathize with you, right? They'd sit down and talk with you, you'd work it out, you'd be able to get some of your stresses out. In the second story, you get a promotion that you've wanted for a long time, and then you're faced with ridicule and rejection from your work colleagues, right? So in both situations, you started off with a high level of positive expectancy, and then ultimately were let down by the responses of others. And when this happens, most people will suffer from a feeling of like disappointment or guilt, stress, or even shame. While these emotions aren't physically painful, they're emotionally painful and arguably much worse instead of like physical pain, where you get an endorphin release that would actually make you feel better, right? And start to give you some euphoria. You get only stress hormones released. And what happens is there's this rush of cortisol and adrenaline, and it starts to flood your system and create a fight or flight response. But the thing with cortisol, right, is I would have to imagine that both of you guys have heard of cortisol before. Like, John, have you ever heard of cortisol before? Like maybe even in a commercial?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I may not have a full understanding of what it does or what it is.
Okay. Well, actually, this will be great, right? So cortisol, it's talked about in weight loss commercials and even characterized as like the fat hormone, right? Although it's more accurate to call it a stress hormone than a fat hormone, okay? But what cortisol does when our body's working properly is amazing. And it's part of the reason we as a species have been able to adapt and thrive in virtually any climate on this planet. But what cortisol and adrenaline are released at appropriate levels, it gets our body ready to operate in a high performance state. And this is done by adrenaline increasing your heart rate, elevating your blood pressure, and then boosting your energy supplies, right? While cortisol, right, it starts to increase the sugar in your bloodstream, helps us create more readily available energy by doing that. It enhances your brain's ability to use sugar as well. And so it starts to help you think faster. So you can start making decisions quicker. And then cortisol also increases the availability of a substance in your body that helps to repair tissues, right? So it sounds pretty cool. So ultimately, you get stressed out or freaked out, and you turn into Wolverine from the X-Men, right? Anytime you're under threat, you're Wolverine. Now, but this is the flip side to that, right? Because the body is all about efficiency, when cortisol starts to get released, it also curbs other like non-essential functions. Essentially that anything that's not associated with a fight or flight situation. So it starts altering your immune system response. It suppresses it. It suppresses your digestive system, your reproductive system. And if you're still growing as like a kid, it starts to stunt your growth. So not only does cortisol stop or slow a lot of vital function, it also communicates with areas of the brain that control mood, motivation, and fear, effectively decreasing your motivation, right? And decreasing your mood, right? So making you feel lower, and it increases the level of fear. So then this forces most people to flee the situation or avoid it as much as possible. So you guys can see why this response can lead to terrible results in your life. So guys, can you guys kind of see how this response, like this physical response, if it was prolonged, could really start to like wear away at your system?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. But that's where most of us live a vast majority of our day, because we don't actually have physical threats anymore like we used to. We have a lot of social threats and job threats, things that are going to impact our ability to adult, right? But what ends up happening with prolonged cortisol release is a lot of the problems that most Americans face. So like you start having issues with anxiety, depression, get digestive problems, right? So like IBD, headaches, muscle tension, pain, heart disease, heart attack, high blood pressure. It can lead to stroke. It'll start to weigh on your sleep, right? Weight gain, memory issues, and even like concentration impairment. So long story short, this is why stress is a killer of both productivity and people. Our bodies aren't meant to stay in hyperdrive. And to keep with this car analogy, we haven't souped up our body's like engine, its transmission, its drive shaft, its struts, any of that stuff to add on with this added stress. So of course our body is going to start to break down from all of this. But this is what's cool. One, both regular exercise and eating right helps your body manage these environmental stresses better, right? As well as the mental stressors that come along with adulting at like high levels, okay? The bottom line is when our bodies and minds start to associate pain with something. So if we're telling ourselves, I don't like to work out, I hate to work out, or we're criticizing working out or making fun of it, right? We start to create this negative association with it. And we want to withdraw from it and this situation by any means, right? And so no matter how positive it actually is, because of our perceptions are controlling our reality, we end up wanting to get away, right? It's the same reason why like big superstars like Chester from Linkin Park end up killing themselves, right? Because their perception of the world around them is that it was hopeless and they couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't change his circumstances. They didn't see it as being something that was fixable for him anymore. And it drives their experience. Like, so it ended up driving his personal experience of life and led him to make a decision that I'm sure a lot of us were really saddened about. Now, let's look at the flip side though of all this, right? What happens when we start to feel pleasure, right? So, I mean, what happens, right? Like, so just like when we feel pain, right? Our body has a biochemical reaction, except for instead of releasing cortisol and adrenaline, it starts to release both serotonin and dopamine. Now, serotonin and dopamine are rightfully referred to as like the happiness hormones. And so dopamine plays an important role in many different vital functions of our body and mind. It regulates our body's agility. Higher levels are shown to be able to increase eye-hand coordination, or like adequate or slightly elevated levels are usually associated with higher levels of happiness in people. But most importantly, for our purposes, dopamine reinforces good behaviors, right? And then it can even reinforce bad behaviors. So dopamine is is what cocaine does to our brain when we do it, right? Like, so that's why people get so addicted to Coke. Or when we eat a lot of candy, right? Dopamine gets released in our brain. And so that's why we end up really liking candy or a soda or something, all right? Generally speaking, it's not hard for most people to increase the dopamine levels in their brain naturally, though. They don't have to do it through food or other substances. Just acknowledging that you followed through with something that you said you'd actually do, and you hold space, right? So you allow yourself to feel good about what you just accomplished will start to have this effect of you starting to drip dopamine, right? So telling yourself good job, right? Someone else telling you good job has this effect, right? That's why we feel that high when our boss is like, oh, this looks great, or when a client tells us something looks great, right? So it starts to release these happiness hormones, right? Exercise also increases dopamine levels, especially when we start to consciously reinforce this drip process. And when we start to consciously do it, we begin the process of hardwiring this new habit into our entire nervous system, making it to where our body starts to identify like a specific physiology with like being active and moving around. So literally, it starts to make us addicted to exercise and eating right through calculated positive reinforcement. But now let's look at serotonin, right? So this is the second feel-good hormone. Serotonin's not so much a brain chemical as it is a gut chemical, and it regulates our digestive system in a huge way. While this is true, serotonin generally is connected with our long-term reward system. So people who are better at delayed gratification tend to have higher levels of serotonin in their body. Again, exercise helps your brain release serotonin, although healthy eating is the biggest thing we can do to increase serotonin levels. Another way we can activate and encourage the release of serotonin is by giving ourselves a compelling future to look forward to. So literally starting to create like positive anticipation. So hopefully you guys are starting to ask yourself, what the heck does it look like, right? Like, what does it look like to make myself, look forward to eating right? Like, right? Like, how do I look forward to broccoli and, chicken, right? And some brown rice or whatever, right? It's not that hard and it's not that complicated, actually. It's something that, and when I tell it to you guys won't even believe me. But it goes into another psychological thing that we'll have to go over at a later date. But do this for me really quick. All right. So I'm going to ask both of you guys. This is the part where I need you guys both to like play full out. This is a silly little exercise that I modified from this guy named Jeremy Falk to help you guys set up your vision and start to reinforce like your dedication and resolve to get in better shape. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to ask you guys to do, and so let me kind of explain this before you start, but start by taking 5 really big, deep breaths in through your nose. Don't do it yet, right? And we're going to do that on a 5 count, and we're going to direct the air to go right at the bottom of our stomach, right here, okay? Into our lower abs. And then we're going to blow out of our mouth on a 3 count, okay? So, right, so we're going to get all the air out. So again, when we're going in with the breathing, we're going in through the nose on a 5 count. We get to the top of that 5. We can't fill our lungs up or our belly up with any more air. And then we blow out on a 2 or a 3 count, depending on our lung capacity, okay? So guys, what I want you to do is sit up nice and straight in your chairs, right? Sit up with some energy, right? And try this with me, guys. So close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Take a breath in. We're going to do it on a 5 count, and I'm going to count for you guys. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to blow out 1, 2, 3 with power, right? And we got 4 more just like that. So we're going to breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through the nose, and then out through the mouth 1, 2, 3, and that's 2. And again, we're going in through the nose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then out through the mouth, 1, 2, 3. Getting it full, right? Number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to the top. Hold it for a second, blow it out. Right, 1 more, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and then we're blowing out 1, 2. Now, guys, when you transition from this breath, I want you guys to go in what's called an easy breath, which is just breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Do it at a regular cadence, whatever's comfortable for you. But I want you to stay focused on the process of like breathing in through the nose, out through your mouth. If you feel comfortable doing it, keep your eyes closed. But now what I want you guys to do is imagine yourself at a moment in life where you guys went back and you guys have accomplished something huge, right? Maybe it was the birth of your first child, right? Or maybe it was when you graduated college or you landed that dream job, right? But just get yourself, start to remember a time, right? And so, guys, sit up the way that you did after you guys started to achieve that goal, right? So start to sit with like, maybe it was a relaxed state that you guys sat in, or maybe it was this excited state that you guys sat in. From there, guys, what we're gonna do, start to breathe the way that you were breathing as you started to achieve this goal, right? So maybe you were taking, deeper breaths, right? And they were fuller and longer, right? And really start to try to connect with the emotional and with this experience, like emotionally and physically, right? And if you guys can, just nod with me if you guys have got a pretty good idea of what that felt like. Okay, got a little nod there. All right. So guys, keep staying with the eyes closed. Now what I want you guys to do is imagine yourself in the same type of state walking out of the gym after a workout. And you're walking back, you got your shoulders back, your chest out, right? You're breathing full, right? You just like you just accomplished something huge, right? Feeling how you felt, breathing the way you were breathing. Now think about all the things that you like about working out. Maybe it's the pump sensation that you get or how tight your body feels afterwards, right? Maybe your legs tighten up and your glutes start to tighten up. You start to get like a little booty pump or you get a nice little arm pump or chest pump, right? Or maybe even how much energy you get from working out and how calm it makes your mind, right? But start to connect with the good things that you associate with working out, right? Now, in that same like frame of mind, imagine what life will be like after you've been consistently eating right and exercising for the last 12 months, right? Like this is all in your rear view, but you've been doing it, right? You've been eating good, you've been working out on a regular, you've been able to go out with your friends, have fun, right? And you've just been living it up. But what's your body going to look like, right? How's it going to, like, what's your energy levels going to be like? How's it going to feel to be that way? How much better will you be able to respond to stressful situations in life? What kinds of things will you be able to do on the weekends, right? Or like when you're on vacation, maybe you'll go kayaking in Colorado or climb the pyramids in South Africa or hike the Grand Canyon even maybe, right? Or maybe you're just chilling on the beach, not a care in the world, right? Everyone's story is a little different and where they're going to feel confident, right? But what kind of clothes are you wearing after you stayed consistent with all this, right? How are people responding to you now, right? Like what's that response from people when you walk into a room and you're about to do a key meeting? What aspects of your personality, and this is a big question, guys. So what aspects of your personality allows you to stay dedicated to working out and eating healthy the way that you have been for the last 12 months? Right? Get an idea of what that is. What part of you allows for this? What did this accomplishment prove to you about what you've always believed about yourself? Now, guys, stay there for a moment with me, right? Just that moment of accomplishment. Really start to feel it, right? And then now let's end like the way that we started. So keeping our eyes closed, but instead of doing 5 big deep breaths, we're only going to do 3. Again, in through the nose on a 5 count, out through the mouth on a 2 or a 3 count, real rapidly with the out breath, but we're going and we're breathing in on 3, 1, 2, 3. We're breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to the top and blowing out 1, 2, 3, right? And we're going to do 2 more and we're going to breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're blowing out 1, 2, 3, and we're out. And then this is our third and final one. We're breathing in, and we're going to make a funny noise at the end of it. So I'm going to do it with you guys. We're going to breathe out. We're going to go. So we're going to breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to the top. And we're going to blow out. All right. Now shake your body out. So guys, I want to stop and ask you guys, how do both of you guys feel? So let's start with Rebecca. Rebecca, how do you feel after walking yourself through that experience?
Well, I was pretty energized from the breaths. I'd forgotten from yoga how powerful that can be and energizing on your body. It's very motivating to visualize my thought. I have, obviously, the birth of my children is the most amazing thing and stuff, but what was something that I accomplished all on my own and did alone, and that was when I did my 100 days of no missed days in the gym. And that was the first thought that came to my head, and it went really well, turns out, with what you were saying. And so I remember feeling very in control. I felt kind of more powerful, definitely more confident. Discipline is huge for me. I pride myself, until recently, on being a very disciplined person. And routine, a routine says this is just what I do. There's no questions asked. So my mind is less distracted. Mornings are best for me in working out, and it feels like my first choice of the day was a good one. So usually the rest of the day kind of follows suit. And yeah.
Do you feel like it gave you a little more leverage on yourself to, like on the days that you're not quite as motivated to get into the gym, like that you can find that in yourself to, go, hey, you know what, Rebecca, I'm going, and pull yourself by the hair and get yourself over there?
Yeah, I think to be reminded of and to visualize all the good that felt, because looking back, I don't remember the days that it was hard. I just remember that I did it no matter what. And so I guess taking that to where I'm at now, where I'm struggling to get back into a routine, it makes me realize like nothing's changed. I'm just as powerful now and in charge of my choices as I was back then. So I can do again what I did in the past.
Okay. No, beautiful. And we're gonna take this further as we go along, where we develop this, like, for lack of a better term, this neurocircuitry to be motivated so strongly, where we're going to be able just to like take an anchor, and when we're waking up in the morning or we're doing it after work, whatever our workout time is, we can just clap our hands wherever we set that anchor and just get ourselves up and start moving, right? Like I'll tell you guys what I do. When if I can't get out of bed, I go, and I like push my arms forward like I'm Superman. And like that's my anchor to get myself up in the morning when I'm like dogging it and I don't want to get up, John, as a male, for you, what was it like as you went through this process, and what were the feels?
Yeah, man. So what I loved about the process was that it was almost like I'm tapping into like cellular memory of all of these things that have happened to me. And it was like bringing them forth back into my consciousness, back into the forefront, and knowing that like, hey, I've done it before, I can do it again. And then also I love the visioning process of, hey, what's this going to look like when you are sustaining this, when you are doing that in 12 months? And the visualization and like that projection, it was really cool for me because it also, in a sense, gave me hope. Like, yeah, that is possible. And knowing that I've done these pivotal moments. That's why I love that you pointed out what were some pivotal moments where you did reach a place that was a huge success for you. And just like Rebecca was saying, you have a kid. It's definitely like probably the biggest thing in your life. But I remember how afraid I was. And I remember like, oh my God, like it was like an initiation process, really. And so, but to go through that process, it made me realize, hey, if I can do this, I can do anything. And then even thinking of like 12 months down the line and seeing this transformed version of me and having that same realization, hey, I did it. I know I can do this. I can do anything. And coming to that same realization as I did then. So it was really powerful for me.
No, that's beautiful. That's what you just said, John, and both of you guys, no answer was wrong. That was really where we were going with it. And where I was going with it was that, activate that part of you, that achievement part of you. Rebecca, something I would say about you that like, I mean, I'm shocked that it's not it, but I mean, like your very first published book, right? Like when you got published as an author, right? Like how many people have done that?
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I guess right now my head's just thinking about
Working
get
out.
fit and working out and trying to get recover my life a little bit. So
One step at a time, right? That's how we eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Now guys, today's like homework assignment, right? And so I'm glad that you guys thought that was cool. The big thing here, more practice with this, the better with the visual, like more practice with visualization, the better you're going to get. And what's awesome is the brain can't tell the difference between something that it imagines and something that it actually experiences. So the more you guys do this, the more you're going to start to like unconsciously and consciously steer yourself towards those like feelings and behaviors that would be that of a fit person, because you're going to start to identify as that person. You're going to see it in your mind. Your brain is going to start to associate like John, Rebecca they are the type of people who work out on a regular basis. They are the type of people who eat right and eat healthy, right? But maybe they still go and have fun. Like maybe they have time to have chocolate cake from time to time on the weekends, right? But Monday through Friday, they're these badass weightlifting machines that are going out there making progress, right? So guys, this part of it is more cognitive than it is visual. So write out what aspects of working out you guys enjoy, right? So try to get like a really, well articulated, detailed list of this. And maybe the sense of pride you get from working out, maybe it's because you wake up early and not many people wake up early, right? And you go and you hit the gym, right? And then after you complete that, right, complete the aspect of like what you enjoy, right? Write out how your life will improve in the future, right? So think of this in as much detail as possible, even if you use some of the previous work that you've done during this program to build on it. And after you complete that, you will have designed both a compelling like reasons right now, right? Like, so the good things that we get from working out in the moment, right? But then you will also have started to design a compelling future. So you're going to have both a push, right, to go and feel those really feel good things, right? And then a pull to pull you into the future and what that's going to look like, right? So what's that future going to look like? Because the reason we're doing this is, one, so you start to cognitively associate with it, but then two, so that you guys will have an easy way of being able to draw up like that push and that pull, so that you've got, again, the compelling reasons that are pushing you into doing it, and then the compelling future that you're moving towards. So guys, until next time, keep training, keep kicking butt, and keep leveling up. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Have a great night.